All right, so in about 60 seconds, I'll give it to you. It's a 550 unit from 1990. It's in really nice shape cosmetically. It looks like the door gaskets have been changed. It looks like the door hardware is brand new. The freezer works great. The fridge isn't working too good. You can actually see the ball of ice or the condensation on the left side of the evaporator coil inside the machine. Coincides with the machine not having any gas in it. The compressor is ancient. Say it's an original, about 30 years old. The freezer compressor has been replaced. We have no problems with the freezer. It's got a great seal. The condenser looks like it needs really good cleaning. And these people are busy. They don't really want to mess around with it and do like maybe just a coil or just do a compressor. We're going to do a full sealed system, and that is going to give them the best warranty. It's going to last a really long time. It's the most bang for the buck. And what that looks like on a 550 unit or most 500 series is you're definitely getting a compressor. You're getting your heat exchanger, which feeds the gas to your upgraded evaporator. We're going to change the condenser fan here. We're going to get all new light bulbs everywhere we can in this machine just to light it up for them. They're getting a thermostat. This is a drain heater for a 550 unit. If you're doing a 550, you probably, or a 650 unit, you're probably going to want to heat the drain. We'll get them a new fan blade and a fresh charge of gas. You know, this unit's 32 years old, but, you know, they just moved in this week. They're busy. For the price of a rebuild, I guess they could go and get a cheap refrigerator at Best Buy, but who the heck's gonna rip out their Sub-Zero? And tell you what, it is in a beautiful kitchen and it does not look 30 years old. It looks great. So we're gonna put the money into this, and hopefully this lasts them a long time. And then we're a call away if anything ever goes wrong. So that's a lot of the setup for a lot of people. And you know, let's get to it. All right, so step one, let's strip this down. Let's get out the compressor, the fan. Let's get out the evaporator. Let's get out the heat exchange. The lighting shroud's gonna come off. We're gonna get this thermostat out. Let's just strip it down. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do after I have my compressor and my evaporator and everything out of the machine, all the fans and everything I'm about to replace. So I'm basically just gonna get in here and vacuum up anything I see, any dust or particles, and I'll scrub the floor down a little bit with a little soap and water and clean it up in there, just because you're never going to be able to really do this again. And then I'm going to get into really cleaning it with my nitrogen to really blow out that condenser and make sure when I'm doing this, I've got all the dust out of the machine and that we start it up nice and clean. Okay, so I used my nitrogen and just blew out the condenser. I want to show you what came out. You saw how it was. Look at all that dust. Now, before I get into soldering or doing anything, I'm gonna vacuum it all up. And that all came out of the condenser, right in here, that part that you're supposed to vacuum every year. At this point, I just put in all my accessory parts, my thermostat, my fan, my tube heater. I do leave the condenser fan out right here, the new condenser fan, just because it's easier to get the compressor in first. I get the compressor in, and then I'm going to get the heat exchange and the evaporator in, and we're going to put a new moisture filter, an inline filter here, just like this guy over here. A new filter dryer, which you always do with the new sealed system. And then we're basically just going to solder it all together. And that's basically it. Then we'll get the fans in, we'll get everything plugged in, and we'll get it mounted and ready to go back to operation. All right, so basically we have our evaporator coil in place, and we're going to solder it on its joints where the heat exchange and capillary meet. We have our compressor in place. We got the high side getting soldered in. We've got the low side getting soldered in. And then we have our inline filter. And you'll see that I solder everything in one go. I'll start with the filter. I'll make my way over to the low side and then the high side of the compressor, and then down to the evaporator. And that way I can possibly, if my joints are good, and they usually are, I can get this all done with lighting this torch one time. Okay, so we've got the compressor in, we've got no leaks. I just put the compressor back on its pegs over there, and I'll get it bolted in. In the meantime, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna ground our fan out here and get it into place. Ground on this is right in the back on one of the legs of the fan motor. Our fan back in place and screwed into the ground. We'll screw it into the ground, and then the last thing we're going to do is we'll hook up our compressor to electrical, and we'll get the compressor grounded in line with the fan. And then we'll mount our thermostat on the evaporator and kind of get it plugged in on the thermostat and get the interior all back together. Then we'll fill her up with gas, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so this is what it's looking like. Basically, we nitrogen tested it. I have the new compressor in. I've got the new fan. Everything is grounded. We got our new filter soldered in. It has been leak tested. We have no leaks. I got the new evaporator in with the new drain heater. We've got the new thermostat in. I do not have the light shroud on yet. I have that right here. I'm currently cleaning it and loading it up with new light bulbs. One thing I do on all rebuilds, anywhere a heat exchanger goes through the ceiling, I use plumber's putty to seal off any warm air from up top getting in and creating mold or moisture. And this thing's ready to go. We can evacuate it with an evacuation tool, and we can recharge it, and we'll make sure everything's working. It should pump probably between about 10 and 20 pounds somewhere. They usually end up, and it should work great. Let's see, let's do it. All right, they are missing a light bulb for the thermostat. From the grommets to the light bulbs, we got it all. Okay, so it calls for 7 ounces. With the upgraded evaporator, make it 7.5 of 134A. We've got this charged up. I use a dial-a-charge. It's a gas measuring tool. I've got about, I would say that's about 16 pounds of pressure on startup with the door open. If we leave it open, that may drop down to 10. I think the cutoff on this machine is about 10 pounds, somewhere around there. At 10 pounds of pressure with the fan spinning, this machine should be at temperature. We will crimp the thermostats down. We'll get the wall back on. Our interior fan is functional. All lights are functional. Compressor is pumping nicely, quietly. That fan is balanced and very quiet. She's looking really good. I'm about to close her up. All right, that's it. She's back together. She's purring. Both compressors are running quietly. I've got all the shelving back in. It's time to close it up, put the grill back on, and consider her rebuilt. Put my sound barrier on. We'll get the spring back on. I like to tighten all my springs. If they get ugly, I'll cut them down and make them nice and tight so that our grill doesn't rattle up here. And we're gonna be ready to go. Those people moved in on Thursday. It is now Saturday. They just found that that machine was not keeping anything cold, and just looking at it, it all being original, having the original evaporator, original compressor, 31, 32 years old. It's definitely a decision you got to make whether or not to rebuild something like that. But as you saw, that machine didn't have a speck of rust. The door hardware was in nice shape. Both doors closed well. The freezer had an upgraded compressor. So I think that all in all, with the cost savings for buying a new refrigerator and the way we were able to do that the same day that they called us for the service, they just saved a lot of money. They don't have to pull a refrigerator, a Sub-Zero, which is north of $10,000 now, and up to a year wait for them out of their kitchen. They don't need to do any carpentry or any sort of cabinetry alterations to get a new refrigerator in there. They don't even have to go to Best Buy. So I think that, you know, that was a good decision on that unit to rebuild that. And if you have any questions about what we did there, or you know, we're not showing you every little thing with those rebuilds. That's not an in-depth rebuild how-to video. It's just kind of like my daily, you know, day-to-day and what we do and how we kind of rebuild these things, save people money, and you know, fix these things up good with great warranties. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you can drop a comment or tell me, hey, I want to see this, or hey, John, why don't you come over and do it to my fridge? So let me know. I'm glad you watched. Thank you.